Hi, grade sixes. Today we're going to be carrying on with lesson 11 and we're going to be doing the work from the previous video, which was to read through page 84 and to answer the questions on page 85. And I'm going to ask that you please make sure that you've got a pencil or some colored pens. This work, I'm not too concerned about ticking and crossing of incorrect or correct. You're welcome to do that, but I don't want that to be your focus. Please, these lessons should be a learning experience. And your books are yours, so please feel free to make additional notes, elaborate, correct, highlight, underline, draw diagrams, whatever you need to do to learn. Right, so the book review was about a story set in the Amazon, and I just wanted to show you where the Amazon is so you have a bit of an idea of the kind of place we're talking about. Now, South America looks quite similar to Africa in shape, and you'll see that whole green region there is what we know as the Amazon jungle. In the book, in the review, it doesn't mention where exactly. Most of the Amazon is in Brazil, but you can see it goes over into other countries, like Colombia and Venezuela. A very beautiful green place, and you can see that blue kind of line that winds its way through the green is the Amazon River, which is a very large river, and there's a lot of smaller rivers going off of it. So that's the area that we are speaking about. So we looked at the book Journey to the River Sea, and we read the 4 paragraphs. And today we're going to have a closer look at the questions. All right. So they asked you to use your dictionary to look up the meaning of these words. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking to you about dictionaries and about the ways that you can use dictionaries and things you can find in the dictionaries today. So just bear with me. If you open up a dictionary, I used dictionary.com for the first definition. You'll usually see the word itself is in bold or in a fancy font, and then sometimes they have pronunciation, and then important, they will tell you the part of speech it's usually used as. So if you haven't written what part of speech your word is, please make sure that when you're copying a dictionary definition that you write down the part of speech. It's important that you start to think about the roles that words play in sentences and the part that they play in understanding. And you'll see in most dictionaries there will be more than one definition for each word, which means that a word can have different meanings depending on the context. So if you've just written flesh and then a colon and then meat, it means you haven't really done your job. You should, if they have more than one meaning, you should either choose the one that best suits the context or the text, or if in doubt, write all of the meanings. All right, so you can see dictionary.com is quite an easy to use dictionary. So if you go to Google and you just type in dictionary.com onto your phone or your tablet, you'll see it's quite easy to use. For the second word, I want to show you what I found in the Merriam-Webster. Now, the Merriam-Webster is one of my favorite dictionaries to use, and I quite like to use the Merriam-Webster dictionary online. They have quite a few fun apps that show all sorts of things and kind of games that you can play with words and things, ways that you can manipulate words. So it might be fun for you to go and have a look at their website. Right. You'll see that they have the meaning of the word in bold and it has a special font. It's set out quite nicely. It's quite easy to see what's going on in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. They say that strict is an adjective, and there you can see those funny symbols. That is called the phonetic pronunciation. So phonetics is the study of sounds in human speech. So you can actually go to university and study phonetics as a subject. You can see it uses letters as well as symbols to show that the way words sound. So it's more specific and accurate to use phonetic symbols than to use the actual alphabet that we learn at school. It distinguishes between different sounds more specifically than our alphabet. Right, I wanted to show you as well that in the Merriam-Webster they show quite a few different definitions, and also a little phrase or little part of a sentence so that you can see what it means. For example, one definition of strict could be severe in discipline, and they give you the example, for example, a strict teacher. So it's quite nice if you struggle to find the meaning or to understand the meaning of a word. The Merriam-Webster is quite a nice place to go. It also shows you strict could have another meaning. It could mean exact or precise. And they give you a phrase. In English, we might say in the strict sense of the word. Another thing I like about this particular dictionary is that it says archaic at the bottom. Sorry, I skipped too fast, which means the old-fashioned sense of the word. Number 2, they ask you to find the meaning of navigates. So I looked at oxfordlearnersdictionaries.com. The dictionary that we use at school most often is the South African Oxford School Dictionary, which is a variety of this dictionary. And they also have quite nice kind of little apps and little, for example, using the Oxford Learners Dictionary, you can look up synonyms of the words, you can look up words that rhyme. There's quite a few fun functions. So if they ask you to find a word like navigates and you don't find it in the dictionary, then you look for the root word or the stem word, which is navigate, the one without a prefix or without a suffix. So you can see navigates is just another form of the verb navigate. So they don't differ in meaning much. It actually has the same meaning in this context. The verb form changes to agree with the subject. So, for example, I navigate, she navigates, they navigate. Can you see how she navigates got an S, but it doesn't change the meaning of the root word or the stem word. Right, I want to show you another dictionary, the Cambridge English Dictionary. This, for me, is one of the best ones to use. So if you're looking to buy a dictionary and you don't own one, you can always use an online dictionary, but it's quite nice to have a paper dictionary to have on your desk or to have on your workspace. The Cambridge English Dictionary is quite a nice one, and I don't see people using it that often, but it really is lovely, and I'll show you why. First of all, it gives you the UK phonetics or pronunciation as well as the US. Now, in this case, it happened the UK and the US pronunciation don't differ too much, but you might see in other words that they do differ. So the South African English that we speak and that we write is derived, or it comes from British English. So we speak British English. Now, we don't have the same accent, so you can probably tell if a South African person or a British person is speaking, but our pronunciation and spelling is the UK pronunciation and spelling. So that's the United Kingdom, in other words, the British. So if in doubt, always look to the UK or the British version rather than the US, which is another reason why I like to use the Cambridge English Dictionary. Cambridge is a place in England, a university in England, where they publish the dictionary, and you always know that they always defer to the UK or the British English, meaning the UK or the British English will always be given preference. Another reason I like using the Cambridge Dictionary is because they give you a list of synonyms. So if you didn't know what independence meant, and if the definition didn't help you much, freedom from being governed or ruled by another country, oh, that's confusing, then you can look at the synonyms. So you might, if you didn't understand independence, you might understand autonomy, home rule, self-determination, self-government, self-rule, sovereignty. This is also very useful if you're writing an essay and you want to look for an alternative word. You don't have to look up in a thesaurus, which is a separate book, but you can look in the Cambridge English Dictionary and they will give you synonyms or words that are the same or have very similar meanings. And then they also like to put a sentence where they've used the word in a way that makes the meaning clear. All right. So they've said it's important that parents should allow their children some independence. That means the ability to live your life without being helped or influenced by other people. So you can see each dictionary is quite different, and there's a lot that you can look up, not just the definition. The Macmillan is another popular dictionary, and I just wanted to show you, they asked you to look up the meaning of recommended. If you look in the dictionary, you will probably not find the word recommended, but you will find recommend. And it's easy to see that recommended is just the past tense of recommend. So the meaning is not going to change, other than to say recommend means to advise. So recommended means the past tense, to have advised. So if you wanted to write a definition, you could simply write the definition of recommend. Choose the one which you think. So recommend is a verb, it's a transitive verb. The UK phonetics is recommend, and the definition is to advise someone that they should do something, and recommended is to have advised someone that they should do something or should have done something. All right, so number 2, they showed you some creatures, and you needed to match the animals' names to their pictures, and they gave you a list in your book on page 85. They're kind of highlighted in a yellowy color. So picture A is that snake. So A should be anaconda. Picture B is that parrot over there, the multicolored one. It's a macaw. C with a tapir. A tapir can sometimes be black and white, but you also get spotted and striped ones, but you can recognize them by their squat little bodies and their strange noses. D is a piranha, quite a scary looking fish with its teeth. And E is a toucan. A toucan is a kind of parrot with a long beak. All right. There's one of these words which are highlighted at the top, which were the odd one out, the one that didn't have a picture. And I wondered if you spotted that there's one that was the odd one out. It was that word, sloth. Right. I want to quickly see if you've learned the names of these animals. So I'm going to quickly ask you to do something. Do you know what we call this animal? Oh, I would not like to put my finger there. All right. That's the piranha. Do you remember the name of this one? I wonder if you know the difference between the two birds. Right, the one with the long yellow or red beak is the toucan. This slightly terrifying creature that is able to swim as well as go on land. Did you remember that it's called an anaconda? All right, now this adorable creature, do you see its strange nose? Right, this one has spots and stripes. It's a baby. It's a tapir. Check that you've spelled these words correctly. And this parrot with the red feathers on its head, the macaw. And the odd one out, which didn't have a picture in the textbook, my very, very favorite animal. There we have some sloths. All right, good. 3. What type of writing do you think this story is? Now, they want to know what genre, G-E-N-R-E, from the French, genre. What kind or type of story, Journey to the River Sea, the book reviewed, what kind of writing do you think it is? Do you think it's an autobiography? Do you think it's fantasy? Do you think it's an adventure story? Do you think it's a mystery? Horror, perhaps? Now, if you said autobiography, I'm going to say that that is incorrect because there's no evidence from the review to say that it's an autobiography. An autobiography is someone's life story written by them. So if someone's writing an autobiography, they will use the first person perspective or the first person narrative. So if it was an autobiography, they wouldn't have said it is early 1900s, Maya, an orphan, has left. It would say something along the lines of, it was the early 1900s. I was an orphan. I had left England. Right, so it's not an autobiography. It's not written by the person it's about. I'm going to say that it's probably not a fantasy. There aren't any strong clues to say that it's a fantasy. Fantasy will usually have some magical or mystical or fantastical elements. I see no mention of or hints that anything magical or out of the ordinary is going to happen. She doesn't mention any dragons or mermaids or anything strange like that in the review. I would say that it's probably going to be a bit of an adventure story because the Amazon is a place full of all sorts of exotic creatures and dangers, and she's going into the jungle, so probably she's going to have some sort of adventures. If you said mystery, I would also accept a mystery um, because there might be some things that she might have to solve or some secrets that are mentioned. All right, I don't think it's a horror. If it was a horror, they would have given you a sense of foreboding, or they would have mentioned some scary or spooky or strange things to kind of get you to want to read the book. So no, I definitely don't think it's a horror. Now, besides naming, you could have said adventure or mystery, or perhaps it could be both. Some books have more than one genre, so you need to give a reason for your answer. In terms of adventure, there's many things you could say. You could say that the review describes exciting adventures, that it hints or gives you a clue that she's going to go on some interesting adventures, And you can kind of guess that the main character will probably have some exciting experiences in the Amazon. Right. You could have said mystery, because the review gives us a sense that there are many unanswered questions for the main character to investigate. So she might have to go and do some digging or some interviewing or some exploring, which is usually what people do in mystery stories. Then number 4, they say each part of the book review has a different purpose, a different job, a different role. Now, later on in the year, you're going to have to write a book review, and your book review is going to be structured much like this one with 4 paragraphs. So that's why we're starting off to get you familiar with the fact that each paragraph has a different role. They want you to decide which paragraph or which part of the review gives you the piece of information mentioned. So A says, paragraph tells you who the characters are. So you should have written the whole sentence. And if you've been a little bit lazy and just written a number, please go back and write this as a sentence. Paragraph 2 tells you who the characters are. Now I'm going to show you that paragraph from the text and just prove to you that paragraph 2 is in fact the correct one. You don't have to write out this paragraph, but just spend a moment having a look. So it tells us who the characters are. See their names. We've got Maya, the governess, the Carter family, the cousins, uncle and aunt. And also a little bit about the character's personality, right? So the first paragraph 2 tells us about the people who populate the story. Right, B. Paragraph asks a question to get the reader interested, and it gives a quote from the book. So I think most of you managed to spot that it was paragraph 1. They've given you 2 hints there. So this is what paragraph 1 looks like. There's the question that they're asking. Often in reviews, they have a leading question, either the first sentence or somewhere in the first paragraph, to get you curious and to get you to read further. And also right away, there's a quote. You can see that it's a quote because of those quotation marks or inverted commas. Right. C. Paragraph gives the reviewer's opinion and recommendation. So that was paragraph 4. All right, you can see the reviewer's opinion. So if I asked you for the reviewer's opinion, you would say the reviewer thought that the story was magical, spellbinding, that they couldn't put it down. And they also recommended. They recommended for people who like adventure stories, who like heroines. That means a hero who is a lady or a young girl, and also teenagers who fight for independence. So if you like those things, you probably will like that book. And then they actually say highly recommended. Good. D said paragraphs and describe the plot. The plot means the story. So it's paragraphs 2 and 3. And I want to show you how you can use even a short review to plot out the story. See, we know that she's an orphan. I could have included that. She left England. She went to live with her relations. She makes some friends. And she falls in love with the jungle and she meets Finn. Right. So that's basically what happens. And then E, the tells you the title, the author, and the year the book was published. I was disappointed to see that the whole cover was not shown in the textbook, but the heading tells you the title and the author. And the cover, although we didn't get to see the back of the cover, the year of the book is usually published at the back or the inside cover. Right, so that was what was shown in your textbook. You can see the title, Journey to the River Sea, the author, Eva Ebbetson, and unfortunately it's too small or we can't see enough to know the year that it was published. Number 5, they want to know what you think of the book review. Not of the book itself, be careful. They want to know those 4 paragraphs. What did you think about that person's opinion of the book and their description or summary of the book? Did it make you want to read the book? And how did the reviewer do that? Right. So you're going to write not just a sentence, but a paragraph. So here are some guidelines. Have you used full sentences? You need to answer in the form of a paragraph. To answer those 3 things, you're going to be writing at least 3 sentences, preferably more. You're going to answer each part of the question. So you need to mention what you thought, your opinion, and you need to justify your opinion. So your answer could not be, what did you think of the book review? It's bad. No, they didn't. No, that's not an answer at all. You need to make sure that you're answering in detail and you're thinking deeply about what you say. All right. So I'm sure that you did a good job of looking up the definitions as best as you could, of labeling the animals, and of finding the correct paragraph and of identifying the genre. So please make sure that you have corrected, edited, and elaborated on your answers using a pencil or colored pen. You don't only need to be writing the answers, you can write any notes that I say or that you see. Remember, this is a learning experience for you. You will be asked to write a book review